Did you hear that?
Yeah.
That was our son!
I know. And he's telling us to fucking leave. Hello. I am Robert.
And I am Roberta.
Today's movie is We Are Still Here from 2016, starring my close personal friend, Barbara Crampton, who's done a lot of Lovecraftian horror movies like From Beyond and The Reanimator. She's also done Chopping Mall and Beyond the Gates, which I reviewed previously. She's
Close personal friend feels like a stretch, but okay.
she's a very, very dear friend of mine. So what's this about?
Well, this movie is about a couple that is moving into a new home, and like many people are dealing with, their boiler is problematic and not working, and they're trying to get somebody to come out and fix it. That's how the story opens, is they're moving into an old house. There's a problem with the boiler. So this couple lost their son tragically, and they are grieving the loss of their son.
Bobby.
Yeah, Bobby.
He was an adult. I mean, I think he was in college or just after college, so not a little kid. He's an adult, but yeah, he's deceased, and clearly, Barbara plays Anne. She's very broken up.
Anne feels like she can hear him, or she's at least trying to. Like, a photo falls off the wall and smashes, and she's like, "It's Bobby." Like,
it's a sign.
He hated that picture. Like, that's why he knocked it off the wall. It couldn't possibly be that the house is haunted.
Fun fact, there's a couple pictures of Bobby in the film, photographs mounted in frames and stuff, and the person that plays Bobby in those photos is the art director for the film.
Yeah. They didn't have to add anything in the budget. He was already there.
Sort of built in, yeah. Now, I do want to say that this movie is set in 1979, but it's only a few years old. It was made more recently than that.
It was 1970. I thought when they had the cars, I'm like, why are they using these? I thought it was modern. I'm like, why are they using these old cars, these picture cars? Nobody would drive these in the modern time. It was a period film.
Not only that.
I just learned that.
It takes place in, I forget the name of the town, but it's set in Massachusetts, New England, and it's winter. There's snow on the ground.
Oh, they open it up with some really nice cinematic shots of winter. Let's give it a point for that.
You say that, but I had a problem with the way this was filmed, and I think they did it to make it look more period, like 1979. It's kind of a dark, and it's kind of grainy. It's not a crisp film, like, let's say, some of the modern films, like
Velocipaster.
Anything by James Wan is crisp and in focus and fast speed, Insidious or any of those. This one, I think they purposefully made it look a little old and dingy, and I didn't like that about it, but whatever.
I personally did. I just didn't understand why it was happening. I thought that it was like trying to make it seem more creepy, but it wasn't, to me, that creepy.
This is a haunted house story, sort of. At least it starts off that way. So they move in.
It seems very selective about who it haunts in the beginning.
You can hear some bumps in the night. What was that? I don't know. What happened? This happened.
Bobby.
The picture fell off the wall and smashed.
It
Oh,
must
it's
be
Bobby.
Bobby.
It must be Bobby. Anne, Barbara Crampton, she's convinced it's Bobby. She can feel something. The minute she walks in the house, I can feel something. And then...
and like many people, they have to call someone to come fix the
boiler. The boiler's weird. Like, the boiler is not making the rest of the house hot. But the basement, anytime anyone walks into the basement, it's like, oh my God, it's like 100 degrees down here. I'm burning up. So they hire, I think they moved up from New York, so they call their electrician, and he goes down and he has in the basement, and he says, it's 100 degrees down here. I got to look at this boiler. There's something wrong with this. He has a paranormal encounter. Like a serious one. He gets injured, and you get to see some kind, not too clearly.
Hmm.
Some kind of figure,
Mm-hmm.
spirit,
Mm-hmm.
ghost, monster. Not a monster. It's humanoid, but
Something scary.
yeah, it's scary. It scares him. It grabs him. I think it burns him where it grabs him, and they get him to a hospital or whatever. But that's the first thing that you see. So this movie, it's not really a slow burn. Like the minute they walk in the house, some weird stuff happens, and then it escalates. It's a constant escalation of paranormalness.
When the neighbors stopped by,
Oh.
that to me was so awkward and weird. They barely drank anything, and then they're like, well, we've established the story. We better get going.
She's talking about a great actor with, I don't even know how many credits, Monty Markham. Hogan's Heroes, Love American Style, a $6 Million Man. He's been around for a super long time, and they do stop by. He's like, well, where are your nearest neighbors? And he tells this story about...
Which was so inappropriate.
Very inappropriate.
They just moved in. And then he starts babbling about this horrible, like, guy that used to live in this house. And they're just sitting there like, okay. And then they're like, well, better get going. It's getting late.
So we know the house is haunted in some way at this point before he shows up. David McCabe is the character name. But he tells this story about how the town built this house as a funeral home for the town for the Dagmar family that moves in and becomes the Undertakers. And then the horrid stories start. He wasn't burying the bodies. He was selling them. He sold them for medical cadavers. He sold them to the I forget whether he said the Chinese or the Orientals in New York, and they turned the bodies into chop suey, and just all these horrible stories.
They just moved in. They're sitting there like, who lived in our house? Like,
and the Dagmar family, Mr. Dagmar, ran away because he was run out of town on a rail when all the townspeople found out that all those graves in the cemetery, they're empty, there's no bodies there. And then his family, which probably consisted of a wife and 2 kids, I think, died mysteriously in the house. So we have a pattern emerging. House is built, family disappears or gets murdered or whatever. And he as he left, he said, oh, thanks for the whiskey. We better be going now that I've told you this horrible story. And he says, it's good to see a new family in the Dagmar house. And the guy says, well, it's not the Dagmar house anymore. It's my house. And the guy goes, no, it's still the Dagmar house. That should be an indication that something's going on. It starts out slow. What's that? I heard something. And then you got guys that are possessed eating socks. You got a family of ghosts or walking cadavers. I mean they're not ghosts. They can grab you and hurt you.
Not spoiler, but the hippies have a son.
Yes.
Who used to be roommates with Bobby.
With dead Bobby.
So Bobby's former roommate and his girlfriend drive up in this old picture car, and they drag that scene out forever. And then they finally get there. And for some reason, I was so confused by this. They have a very large encounter with the haunting.
Yes, they do.
They just got there. The family that's been living there for presumably weeks, days, hasn't had nearly as much interaction with these haunting people. And I just had to ask, why are these spirits targeting the young couple who just wanted to make out on the couch versus like the old couple? They're like,
do you know
we're
why?
just gonna like spook them a little bit.
You know why?
But then the young couple, they're like, let's go in on like haunting these people.
There's a lot of ghosts. There's certainly the Dagmar family, and Bobby is somehow there too. We find out, and you say it's a family, but it's really not a family. It's the couple. They don't have any surviving children, so it's just Anne and Paul. But that all plays into it because we're going to do lines from the movie and, it won't spoil anything, but they know that Bobby's presence is there.
But why would Bobby not intervene to stop a haunting on
his friend? Yeah, you can't save everybody, right? You just take care of your parents. He's being a dutiful son. I don't know.
That part did not make sense.
Why don't you write them and say, I think that this should have been done differently?
I might, but I don't want to, insult Barbara.
Let's do...
Dear friend. Lines from the movie. My boiler almost killed my electrician this afternoon.
You're going to listen to that old bastard.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
That was our son!
I know. And he's telling us to fucking leave. I did some math. So the house was built in 1849. It's now 1979. If the house wakes up every 30 years, the house has already woken up how many times? 3. That's right. And this, in 1979, is the 4th time it's waken up. And this movie deals with that. So now I feel that our editor extraordinaire, I must say, when the Dagmar family members appear, I like the makeup and the special effects associated with them.
And I would like to say that I hated it.
It took 2 hours to put them into the makeup and 1 hour to take them out of the makeup. You should have some appreciation for that.
And it should have taken 0 hours for someone in the room to go, this looks ridiculous.
You didn't there was little sparks flying. Anyway, we're going to stand here.
I was laughing at that. I thought that was hysterical. They were like little sizzling, little sizzle ghosts. Okay. They were sizzles.
Just stand there and don't move while our editor extraordinaire does some special effects magic without sitting through 2 hours of makeup, and he's going to make us look like the Dagmars, I hope.
Should we just stare blankly?
Just stare at the camera for a sec. Okay, I'm sure that was great. Can't wait to see it after it comes out of post-production. How many pumpkins does this film, starring my dear, dear friend, Barbara Crampton, how many pumpkins does this deserve?
Personally, I died laughing at the line, that was our son. Yeah, and he's telling us to fucking leave.
Well, there's no problem with laughing.
Died laughing. It gets 2 pumpkins for that. I'd give it another half because the guy ate a sock. And I thought that was great.
I watched this movie a long time ago originally, and I watched it again for our review. I think it's a solid 3.
It's a 3. I would give it 0 pumpkins for the special effects. I would give it 0 for some of the build-up and some of the backstory. But some of the little moments, for me, made it, fun to watch.
If you were to cut everybody else out and just string together Barbara Crampton scenes, it would be 5.
Yeah, she was actually really good.
Because I love her. But we'll keep it at 3.
I don't know if you're actually serious about being friends with her.
I'm totally friends with her.
On Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay, 3.